Hey, I know it's been a while, and I wanted to let you know that I am using uh, Dan Bowman's Pro Academy to increase my knowledge with Chief. And I remember taking that course back on X12, and now it's X17. And this is not paid by anybody. This is just me telling you. It's a very cool course. Most of the people that are there already are pretty good with Chief, and people just throw random problems towards Dan and John, and then we watch him figure it out. Sometimes he gets right to it, knows it, boom. Other times he has to dive in and kind of troubleshoot what's going on. One of the things that I noticed was when he wants to make parallel. Let me show you something kind of cool. So typically, if you had something and you wanted to make it parallel, if you just clicked on this and then you came down here and hit the parallel button, it's typically going to only parallel this edge, and the rest of this thing won't rotate. And I've been doing it this way. I go through and then I highlight the whole thing, and then I block it. And once it's a block, then I can rotate it, and it'll stay connected. But that's kind of a waste of time, so let me unblock that. But what he did was he came down here and he said, hey, double click this, right? And it pops up this make parallel thing, and it's defaulted to just the selected edge, but you can now say rotate the entire polyline. So that's kind of cool. And for example, if you were going to rotate it and I wanted it to be on the angle of this, I could go like that. Boom, the whole thing moves. So then, because I'm a Stream Deck fan, I thought, how can I make it do that? Well, here's how you make it do that. A double click is just the command twice. Now, this might seem a little confusing. I started all my shortcuts with numbers in a spreadsheet. And so it just so happens I went through, there's like 1,400 or 1,500 hotkeys that Chief provides. And I just exported them all to a CSV file and then put them in order, and then just started numbering down the side. And then I went through the ones I use all the time. Like here, see, there's a number there. There's a number there. Now, some of this stuff, I don't use numbers because some of it makes more sense just to use a shortcut key. Like open object is OO. It's just too easy. So some of the things I do are on keyboard. I'm sorry, I'm having a Kirkland iced coffee, and it's good, but oh man, it's like, you know how they say it puts hair in your chest? Feels like I'm getting hair in my throat. It's kind of cool. Anyways, where was I at? Yeah, so like, here you go, point-to-point move. Part of my naming convention that works for me is I use SketchUp and I use Chief. I primarily use Chief, and then I use SketchUp for really accurate 3D models, and usually details. So like in point-to-point move, I use MM. I just hit MM on the keyboard because in SketchUp, M is the move command. Just like center. Center is CC. I don't think there's an equivalent in SketchUp, but some of these things are just too easy to just type out on your keyboard without having to try to remember too much. But the rest of them, I know you can't see it right here, but I have an iPad and a 32 button Stream Deck side by side. And they have all the, like, this is what the iPad looks like. And then this is what the 32 looks like. So you can imagine these two screens that you see in front of you are on my desk. And over time, I have figured out what I use the most so that my left hand, like copy and place, you don't know how many times I'll I'll have something and I'll copy and place, and then I'll either point to point move it, or I'll center it or reflect it. And so that's part of the whole Stream Deck aura. You can look back through some of my videos. When I first got into Stream Deck, it's a game changer for me. Some people like to use just the keyboard. Dan's a good proponent of just the keyboard because in his philosophy, he says, hey, you already have a keyboard, so why don't we just make the best use of it? And you can't argue that logic, but I will tell you, this right here, the iPad, if you have a tablet or a mobile device or whatever that's not being used, it kind of sits around the coffee table when you're watching TV and you want to, multitask. If you go to Elgato, you can buy their mobile Stream Deck instead of paying a subscription, it's a really reasonable subscription, but for $49 US, you can buy a lifetime license for mobile. And then you can have this, or if you really want to get crazy, there's a website, a guy, his name is Nutty, and he shows how you can split screen. That's why I call it iPad split, because I had it going where these are 64 buttons, and I caused the iPad to dual screen like it can do now, and I ended up having 64 plus 64, so 128 buttons on one screen. And so that was kind of powerful. Then it becomes a point of what do you think you need? I've noticed I like to turn line weights on and off sometimes because I want to get exact with the skinny little line before the big fat line just makes it impossible. I can turn on and off the active layer, display, the project, and the library. So they either pop up on my screen or go away. Just tap them. This select all actually opens up select all, and then it picks the circular one. So it grabs all of them. So I don't have to do 2 button pushes or 2 mouse clicks. There's just a lot here that I strongly recommend. The only negative to this, well, there's a couple. One is you're going to learn a new process. But the other one is if ever you don't have this, let's say you're on a job site with your laptop and you don't have your Stream Deck with you, it feels really weird having to go back and go, okay, where is that button? Let me click on something. Okay, what am I, you know what I mean? So there's that. Now, what I wanted to show you was this little project I'm working on. I'm waiting to hear back. The particulars of this is it's a really small lot. It's the last lot in a subdivision. It's really not very deep. And the overriding criteria was, okay, 24 feet wide, 40 feet long, but from the inside of the sidewalk, 19 feet back to where the garage starts. And the only way to fit the plan that the builder had was to stick this out 9'7" onto some beams. What I've done is I put the beam up inside the wall framing because I want to keep it out of the weather. Some people like to see the beam. I'm more inclined to never let the beam ever get wet, or the top of the posts. So if the city of Lake Stevens will let that go, then we will have it. Here's the ground footprint. So we'll see. So as I was going through this project, I was running into some things that were kind of strange, and Dan helped me out, and then I went back to do what he showed me. I can't make it work. So here we go. I think it's this page right here. Which when I double click this, opened up this. So if you don't understand how that works, let me just tell you. This is, see that little colored thing? That's a layout window. Or a viewport, if you want to call it, if you come from the AutoCAD background. So this whole sheet that looks like a real sheet, This is what's going to be generated to PDF or to sent to the printer. And then you bring in model information configured to what you want to see in these little viewports, or the, sometimes I call them viewports, sometimes I call them, I can't even remember. But the trick to this is this allows you to have one model and turn off or turn on different layers and save them as saved plan views. And then you can put them on your sheet wherever you want them. Now this is all, like none of this came from the model. I drew all this, and these nice colorful ones, that's why I use SketchUp. It's kind of obvious. You don't really need to see this, but I put it in there just because, and I did the math to figure out how much ventilation is in a typical 2-inch diameter hole. So if they switch to 2.5, I have to recalculate. You do not have to brace like this. What I'm showing is you can either brace this way or you can brace down this way. You don't have to do both. It's just whatever works the best. Some people are going to want it near the top. This is a hinge. When it sits on a wall like this, this becomes a hinge, and so this wall can be kind of loose. So it all depends on what your preference is. And here's the 2D version of it. And what's nice about Chief is the whole notes and labeling it's excellent. See how it looks kind of rough? That's only because it's in the view mode. It doesn't polish it up nice like the one over here. Once you hit print, all this text looks identical. It looks really good. So I don't know why it does that, because if you're in rich text, it looks really good, and then if you're in standard text, it looks kind of grainy until you hit print. And don't even get me started. This is Washington State, and this is how if you can build a house under 1,500 square feet, a small dwelling, then you only have to have 5 credits. And then that way you can get those 5 credits pretty easy, like this. But if you go over 1,500 square feet, you got to get 8 credits. And then you got to go through, where can I get these credits? And it's just their way of making you build an energy efficient structure. So let's get back to this roof. In fact, let's just go right here. So here's the problem I had. I wanted the trusses to run across like overframing. And what I wanted to do was just drag them, and they would hit the overframing. And so I really wasn't sure how overframing worked. And then Dan came over and showed how you do. Let's see if I can think about how this was. I think he went to here. Truss base? No, it might be truss base, I think. Let me see. Yeah, I think it was truss base. And you end up drawing a triangle that matches this part of the roof that you're going to be overframing. And then the software knows that the trusses that go left to right, they go all that way. They wouldn't have tails, so this is not correct. So, what is it? Why? What are there, 2 sets of trusses here? Very strange. So anyways, I'm going to have to go through and manually pull the tails off of these, because you wouldn't have tails sticking down into the ceiling. And all of these trusses are scissor. These trusses will be standard tail out here, web truss flat across, and then they'll end right at the end of the wall. And then the rest of these trusses will sit on top, or you'll run like a 2x8 or 2x10 ridge, and then you'll put 2x12s flat on the plywood, and then you'll rafter down. That's the other option. All of this is generated by the truss manufacturer, and you have to follow their instructions. But I don't want to be conflicting with whatever they're going to do, so that's why I like to try and get this close. And It's not. It's kind of close, but then it does some like crazy ass stuff. I don't think I don't think it would do this. If I was making trusses, I would want to make the same truss every single time so that my jig stays set. So this would just be another truss across here, and part of the overframing would be the guys on the job site would have to fill this in, and somehow Chief wants to do that. And like this isn't right. I don't know why these are so small. Oh, I know why. So there's another kind of weird thing with Chief. If you put blocking in between the ridges as a framer, you could tell Chief, I want the ridge to be a 2x4, and then it'll look like this. And this is what it looks like if you use 2x4 blocking. But the word ridge also applies to the valley ridge and hip ridges. So now that I made this 3.5, it made these 3.5. These have to be bigger. Like if you're stick framing this and not putting trusses down, you need to have a 2x12 just because the seat cut is going to be so long, and the entire seat cut has to be supported. And I've done some of these lower pitch roofs, like I think this is a 5, where you do the 2x12, you plane across here, you use your calibrated eyeball, you look across, and when the tip edge of this can be seen at the top and the bottom, you nail it. But then the heel part of the seat cut is floating out here in midair. So you end up tucking another board up to the bottom side of this and shooting it down just so that it's fully supported. Because that language exists in the code book where rafters have to be fully supported. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it made this into like a girder. Whatever. It just is. Well, it is. I don't question anymore. I just try to. So I don't need this. I'm never going to show this view in the plans for permit. What I need is accurate right here. And I think I can manually do that. And especially once if this design goes through and I'm able to have this 9'7", then I'll be able to come in and put all the language and arrows and make sure the overhangs work and if there's any point loads, that kind of thing. Typically, the reason why they use trusses up here is the framing intelligence has been lost, and everybody who's a builder assumes trusses are just easier and better, and that's not true. The only advantage to a truss is they can clear span longer than you could frame stick framing for cost. But anything after that, you can stick frame some amazing things that truss guys might be able to do, but man, there's going to be no repetition. Every single truss is going to be custom, and that gets expensive. And think about it. These are 2x4s mostly. If your house caught on fire, you better get out quick, because once that 2x4 catches fire, it burns through fast. And I don't like 2 feet on center anyways. People say build green, and they try to do it with the minimum amount of stuff. Well, trees grow back, and my idea of green is build it once, and you don't ever have to build it again. Not build it once, and then you've got a heavy snow load, and after a couple years, you got these sagging troughs. You know, like if you're going to use trusses, use thicker plywood. Don't use 7/16. Go 5/8, or I've even seen some guys, I love their attitude, 3/4 inch subfloor on the roof. So there you go. Man, this coffee's good. Hang on. It's cold. I put a little raw milk in there and some monk fruit, and it kind of tastes like coffee chocolate milk. It's really good. Sorry, I'm all over the place. So yeah, Dan made that look easy, and it was funny because he started off with a caveat. He goes, I'm going to show you exactly how they tell us to do it, but it doesn't always work. And then he went in and did it, and it just worked flawlessly. And, of course, I came to try it, and the very first time I tried it, it made these 3 trusses go all the way across, and stair step down and have like a rectangle instead of what they're supposed to have. So I don't know. There is another thing that could be when you are working in chief, and let's say right now I'm on, what am I on, the second floor? Yeah, right over here. You delete all this. You just highlight it and delete it, or you come over here to edit, delete objects, and you delete whatever you need to delete, framing, walls, rooms, whatever. Somehow the database remembers rooms. And when you redraw something, whatever this room in this general area is, and you say you draw it a different shape, different thing, when you go to check the room dialog, you'll be surprised that it'll be like bedroom 2. You're like, whoa, wait a second, what happened? So I think the only way to get around that is when you go here and you actually delete an entire floor. That might take care of that. But yeah, I've been on the ground floor. Let's just go here. I've been on the ground floor doing stuff and changing walls, and I had this as the primary bedroom before I was allowed to extend it out here. And then when I redrew all this is like revision 4. It still said primary. I had to come back in here. So there's somehow the database holds on to the location, the Cartesian location of this bit of 2D space. And when you redraw stuff, it's already looking at it as what it was labeled. So be careful with that. The other thing is this house has everything. This is kind of a split level, as you can see from the picture. Well, hell, you know what? We can just look at it from different angles. So that's a pain because the floor comes through here. So from right around here, I had to balloon frame everything so that the door would cut through where the top and bottom plates are, because you don't want to run 2 stories up with walls that are stacked on each other, because that's another hinge point where it becomes weak. And I've never really had easy luck. I'm just checking some stuff here. Why are there 2 corner boards here? That's different. And the other question I have is, we never run corner boards on the inside like this. So I'd like it if Chief would let us, when you have an inside, what you do is you nail a 1x1 or a 2x2, depending on how bold you want that. We do a lot of 5/4, which is technically 1 inch trim out here, so it sticks out, it's thick. And you just take a 5/4 and you just rip it so that it's a 1 inch by 1 inch corner board piece, or whatever trim you're using. And you fasten it to the inside frame, well, the plywood of the framing, and then you butt your siding into it, and you caulk and go as you each row you go. So it's not so proud. It's a nice, clean, thin little board. Let me see. I didn't really do this right. I didn't really plan it out. I just want to show that whatever the terrain is, you have to kind of follow it. I was actually looking at the picture, wondering if they could just dig this all out and turn this whole little corner flat and put a retaining wall here next to the neighbor's house, because then you could manage drainage and stuff a lot better, and you'd actually end up with like a 5-foot little place. You could put a nice long little shed or whatever. So we'll see what happens. And they have not gotten back with me on how they want a set of stairs off of here. If you come off this side, it's a lot longer. If you come off this side, it's a lot shorter. But then you got to deal with this hill. So it depends. But yeah, that's a really tight little lot. And this builder is amazing. They're able to get these because nobody really wants to buy them. So you save a little money buying them, and then they turn them into gems. So they've got the right way of thinking when it comes to this. This is what I like about... Oh, that's wrong. Look at that. There's a roof in there. That's not supposed to be there. That's part of the problem. If I actually tell this to merge correctly and it cuts out this roof right. Come here. If it came up here and cut it out and went back down, then when I get to the actual roof, that's what it'll show, and that's where the problem comes in. Roof 2. Yeah, all these that are sticking this way that are supposed to be there with no tails. So that's why I don't use the 3D render, because sometimes you render it to look right, but then it structurally isn't right. I need these web trusses to come all the way to this wall. So, anyways, I wanted to share this, and I've been using Loom. It's really quick. And I do want to say, go check out chiefexperts.com and the Pro Academy. He's, I think it started in the end of November, maybe December. And you can learn a lot. It's more of a, you kind of have to know a little bit more about Chief. He does have beginner courses, and they do one-on-one. However you want to learn this. You can always go with the Bleeding Edge, and that would be Renee Rabbit. But his is already Chief is complicated, and his system, even though it's more automated, to understand what's going on, you really have to, you got to dive in, man, all the way. Dan was, to me, Dan thinks like I think when it comes to construction. Let's get the framing right. Let's, get the foundation right, get the framing right, make the roof work. And for me, here's what I need. I need this document to submit. In fact, I would probably do this. Take the color out. I've had engineers get mad that, why is there color on these plans? What does the color mean? Whatever. I just need this with a little more text and stuff to get submitted for permit. You can see I've got big areas where I've removed different views. What was I going to show you? Oh, this. I never used to use the label of the layout. Some people do, some people don't. But I'm giving it a try this time. That's this thing here. It's automated. Let's see. Hold on. I didn't mean to double click that. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so you highlight it. You you go to label. We're using a call out, so you edit the call out. And here's some of the stuff you can do. You can pick the shape. You can pick the call out label. Let's see, attributes. Oh yeah, so I wrote the word scale and then box scale for the bottom. Automatic label for the top. 1/8 inch text. Use Arial. And over here, yeah, so over here I make it bottom right, and then I come back to the left -4 inches, and the height of the offset is 1/2 inch. And then I actually lay out box labels. I go in here and I confirm that it's 1/8 inch text. So there's that. All right, that's we're coming up on 30 minutes. So I'll make a bunch more of these as things happen, but I just wanted to show you that overframing. So y'all take care. I hope your day goes well. And I don't know. There we go. How do you stop this?